Today we're going to talk about fall vegetable garden crops. I'm Katie Kammler, MU Extension Horticulture Specialist. Timing for fall crops is everything. We really have to plan just like we would for a spring garden. We need to think about our garden area, what space we need, what the soil preparation is, varieties desired, what fertility needs to happen, all of those things that you would normally think about in the spring. Establishing the fall garden so we can direct sow the seeds. Once again, timing is important. So we need to think about that first frost date in the fall. So we need to do some calculations. The numbers of days from seed to transplant, number of days from seed to harvest. Then we also need to figure in the fall factor, which is about 14 days. So when we get into the fall, our day length is shorter and our nights are cooler. So that adds time to the maturity of the crop. Frost tender factor also, if we are growing warm season crops like sweet corn, beans, cucurbits, and that's 14 days. Starting transplants in the garden. So these we need to think about or even earlier. So broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. A lot of times we need to start our own because those are not commercially available. Warm season vegetables, we can get another crop of warm season in if we start midsummer, depending on how many days till maturity. So tomatoes are transplants. Then we can also do direct seed, snap beans, summer squash, some of the winter squash, the shorter season winter squash, and sweet corn. And we can also direct seed leaf lettuce, mustards, radishes, spinach, turnips, kohlrabi, carrots, and beets. So when we think about all those, we need to think about those fall seeding dates. So some of our warm season ones need to be by July 15th. Whereas we can wait a little later for by August 15th for broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, carrots, cauliflower, beets, kohlrabi. And then even later, the end of August for leaf lettuce, mustard, radishes, spinach, and turnips. So some of the difference is also that some of these are frost tolerant, so we can wait later. And some of them just have a shorter to maturity date. We also need to look at those plant selections where the crop reaches maturity in 40 to 50 days, because depending on variety, there can be a vast difference in those maturity dates. Some challenges to fall gardening. Heat. We're getting ready for a really hot week coming up. So even if we've got plants growing, we can have no blossom set to produce fruit, particularly in a lot of our squash. And that's due to heat and high temperatures at night. We can also have stunting of growth and drought conditions in Missouri that makes things particularly difficult when we're thinking about getting those direct seeded crops up in the late summer. Also, warm soil temperatures can be a problem when we're thinking about seeding cool season crops. So I mentioned before, in August is when we're thinking about a lot of these. We get hot temperatures in August and hot soil temperatures. So a lot of times those aren't necessarily very happy. And then on the other extreme, frost will get those warm season crops. We can also see necrosis and dieback depending on the actual temperature of the cold. Planning for the fall garden. We can also do some fall seeding. So herbs like dill, cilantro, caraway can be seeded in the fall. And also garlic is typically planted in the fall for a summer harvest the next year. And finally, some planting tips for fall garden. Transplant in late afternoon or early evening to reduce transplant shock. So that way they have all night to kind of acclimate a little bit before it gets hot and crazy out and they're exposed to full sun. Increase plant spacing to accelerate growth so they're not competing. Water will be needed after transplanting and seeding. So remember, we're typically hot, dry period of the summer. So water in when you direct seed and also continue to water those transplants so they can get established. Add plant seed and transplants slightly deeper than you would normally to ensure the moisture availability. And of course, mulching can also be a huge help in the garden. Thanks for joining me today for our fall vegetable garden planting tips.